First of all, it is important to emphasize that the current sanctions regime would not work. And there's a certain lack of sincerity about the sanctions that are being imposed by the West. I very much agree with Professor Enin and Dr. Tue Champong that these sanctions barely scratch the surface. The only sanction that will hit Russia at its nerve center is sanctions on oil and gas. So far, all the sanctions have conveniently, because Europe depends on Russia for about a quarter of its oil needs, about 2/3 of its gas needs. So they leave out oil and gas. Meanwhile, that is what will get Putin to begin to pull the brakes. Because if we underestimate what is going on, clearly when you listen to Putin, this is just the beginning. He wants regime change. He doesn't want to see Zelensky in charge of Ukraine. So stop these. I mean, yesterday's sanctions was a joke that you are going to freeze assets of Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister, and Putin in Western nations. Where are they traveling to? The people are at war, commanding their troops, and you say that they will care about traveling. You're imposing visa bans and you are freezing their assets. Big joke. Look, the United States of America has the world's biggest petroleum strategic reserves, over 700 million barrels, if it is really committed to its allies. When you impose sanctions on Russian oil and gas, release some of your strategic reserves. The pipelines have been well, constructed from Louisiana, Texas, all the way to Europe. It's not difficult to achieve if you are really committed to ensure that your allies, Europe, doesn't really bear the brunt. In any case, if Europe and the United States of America feel the heat a bit, isn't it better that we all agree that we suffer some inconvenience now to save lives and to protect the territorial integrity of Ukraine? So I am totally disappointed at these, insincere, sanctions that are being outlined. Then number two, something in this discussion, we need to put the United Nations at the center of blame. We have been talking about UN reforms for decades. Ghana and other countries. How does the United Nations feel when the whole world saw the UN Security Council meeting yesterday? Ironically, Russia has taken its position as chairman of the UN Security Council now. They are chairing the UN Security Council. Their permanent rep vetoed the decision that 16 member countries, including Ghana, has made. The majority of countries at the UN Security Council. But because of the P5, because of the veto of these permanent 5 nations. So you have a 193-member United Nations body and only 5. What the 188 think doesn't matter when only 1. So as it is now, only 1, Russia, yesterday vetoed any progress to be made by the United Nations. So the United Nations has become impotent. It's been rendered toothless. We cannot have a situation where we refuse to reform the United Nations and only 5 member countries take us to ransom. You see how now it's affecting the West and they are complaining about this veto regime. It's the same way in other instances. When it has suited them, you see, either the US or France, take positions against the larger interests of the international community. It is time to democratize the United Nations. Then you see something. In all the analysis about the implications, the focus has been on the economy. But I will submit that we should be more worried about the security implications for our sub-region. You know why? France has been assisting us to contain violent extremism. You do know that violent extremism is at an all-time high. Terrorists have taken over. You have all of these Al-Qaeda of the Maghreb, ISIS, Boko Haram, they are in control of Mali. They are in control of the majority of land space in Burkina Faso.
There's a real threat in our border towns.
Exactly.
In Ghana, the NCC has done a research empirical that shows this, and the national security has also taken note of that. Apparently, they are doing something about it.
So you see, the countries that are helping us, France has 5,000 troops in the sub-region now. Germany is supporting with weapons, as you do know, some artillery support. You have the Russians, who are now preferred by French West Africa. Their Wagner group is all over in Africa, at least helping to contain the situation. Now, with what is happening in Ukraine, they are going to shift focus. They are likely to withdraw their troops to focus on the conflict in Ukraine. And that is going to affect us. The terrorists are going to have a field day in the sub-region. So I am deeply worried about
our
that.
evacuation, efforts.
Now the evacuation
because you are the ranking of foreign affairs.
Yes, earlier in the week, I disagreed with government when the initial position was that our students should just seek shelter and go into hiding. I said it was inadequate. It was an unhelpful intervention. Days after that, I now see a shift in position. Government is now moving in. And as the students have confirmed, I've been in touch with them. As we speak, they are moving to the borders that Ukraine shares with Romania, Slovakia, and Hungary. They tell me that the Polish border has become so choked. There are over 50,000 people there.
That's right.
It's difficult to have access.
That's right.
So some buses have been provided, and they are moving. Students who were in Vinnytsia, in Ternopil, and then Kiev are on the move as we speak. I'm told they'll be arriving by midnight. And so far, they are good. There was only a scare yesterday in Kiev when a train that some of our students were in came under attack. Right. But fortunately, they escaped
in the morning.